Hey guys, this is just a quick demo and walkthrough of the Simmons SDS 8 drum synth. This unit dates back to 1984 and was originally owned by a professional drummer who gigged with the instrument back in the 1980s and 90s down here in the Carolinas. Of course, it would have originally come with the 5 hexagonal Simmons drum pads, but as you can imagine, those are long gone. So now we're triggering it with a drum machine, and I'll talk more about that later. Get a set of Simmons pads on Reverb or eBay, but this will work just as well with Roland V drum pads, Alesis drum pads, or even contact triggers attached to acoustic drums, whatever you'd like to use and plug into the 5 channels. Speaking about the 5 channels, the SDS 8 has the kick channel, the snare channel, high tom, medium tom, and low tom. Each of the channels on the drum synth has various controls for shaping the sound, including pitch, decay, bend, tone, and a low-pass filter. Speaking of the filter, each channel is 100% analog. In fact, the entire machine is analog. There's nothing digital about this, including the switching. Is all analog. The analog chip itself is actually a CEM 3372. That's the Curtis 3372 filter chip. This was the same chip that was used in the Oberheim Matrix 12, the Expander, the Sequential Prophet 600, just to name a few. Each channel has 2 presets, the factory preset and a user preset that you can dial in. You can easily switch between these individually per channel or all at once. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the factory presets, so I feel that it's much better to dial in the sounds that you want to hear. And I don't know if you can see it, but the previous owner had used some dark red nail polish to mark his favorite settings on each channel. And quite frankly, they sound pretty good. So I pretty much just leave those set where they were dialed in back in the 1980s. So if you take a look at the channel LEDs here, and I'll play this so you can hear it on the kick drum, I've got this set to the variation that I've dialed in. Same thing on the snare, but the toms are actually set to the factory settings, as indicated by the LED on the factory side. If I switch it over to the factory bass drum and factory snare, you can hear what I mean. They don't sound too exciting. But if you want, here you can switch all the channels simultaneously, and now we're listening to the settings that I've dialed in for each channel. There's also a DIN 8 connector on the back of this unit, but that's not a MIDI jack. MIDI uses a DIN 5 connector. The DIN 8 connector was used for a sequencer that Simmons had available. Just don't get fooled into thinking that that's a MIDI jack. Something else worth mentioning, and something that's very important to getting the Simmons sound, are the dynamics involved with soft, medium, and hard drum strikes. Those who have never used a real Simmons drum kit before won't realize just how dynamic these drums can be. And it's those dynamics that really make up the classic Simmons drum sound. You just can't get this from sound samples or by triggering these with sequencers that put out gate signals at a constant voltage, because they'll always sound stiff and uninteresting. The kick drum isn't as velocity sensitive as some of the other instruments, but there definitely is some dynamic variability there. Here I'm using a drum machine that has velocity sensitive pads and individual outputs to send the trigger pulses of varying voltages to emulate how a drummer would play naturally. The Elektron Analog RYTM drum machine is great for this. But virtually any drum machine or sequencer that has individual outputs you could use. So I hope you've enjoyed this quick demo. Hit me up on Reverb or YouTube if you have any questions, and keep making music. Go ahead and play you out with a few more examples for you to enjoy. Thanks, everyone.